Now let's proceed to the lesson 2 if what I have learned and my understanding about the system unit. We already heard about the word CPU, but we really don't know what is the meaning of this. Now I learned that the meaning of CPU stands for the Central Processing Unit. And the good analogy for the CPU is called the brain. And CPU is the portion of a computer that retrieves the executes instruction. True CPU is essential the brain of an CAD system, and it consists of an arithmetic and logic unit. We know that without CPU, the computer can't use. Also, I learned that CPU comprises millions of tiny transistors and paths that accept data and instruction process, calculate the data according to the instructions, and produce the results of the calculation. The physical CPU is a very small and thin sheet of a semiconductor material. Usually, it is silicon, with a complex array of tiny transistors and buses stamped into it with a die. CPU is a fragile, so it is protected by a sturdy ceramic and metal casing. Some models are mounted on miniature square circuit boards. The underside of this casing contains either tiny pins or tiny metal dots precisely spaced that align with the connectors in the CPU socket and the motherboard. So I already said that without CPU, computer can't use. So it says in the lesson 2 that you will find CPU in every electronic devices. In fact, anything that qualifies as computer, which is a machine that receives input and then processes them and returns output, contains the CPU. And this includes our desktop, our laptop, our smart TV, even our smartphones or your tablet, among others, there are CPU. And mostly, I learned that CPUs have undergone a lot of improvements since they were first manufactured. Even so, at the very heart of it, all CPUs have the same basic functions, which are what makes them so important at the end of the day. So, that's how CPU work, and that's how CPU is very important. That is my learning and understanding in lesson 2.